Effective elements, or essential elements of an effective, difficult conversation, 2 p.m. on Friday.
I don't know. That's, you have to ask him that.
Guess we could scoot these out of the way. Hello. All right. Well, let's get started. I know some of you are going to come in a little bit. Hopefully you all enjoyed your lunch. Continue to eat. If it's really good, hopefully you brought me something. But then again, as my mom always said, it doesn't look like I missed very many meals, so I think I'm okay. So today we're going to talk about a fun topic that I know all of you get very excited about, which is difficult conversation. So woohoo, yes. Who did that? Who made that noise back there? Yeah. Watch out for her. So if you have her on your team. So essential elements of an effective, difficult conversation. I know already you're thinking, wow, his voice is mesmerizing. I hope I just get to hear for the next hour and a half, just him talk the whole time and no participation. No, you won't. This is a lot of participation in this session. So if you don't like that or don't want to talk to anybody, I mean, you're welcome to leave or hang out in the back with Harlan, but I'm going to make him talk, so that's all right. So anyways, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to chat. Think of what conversation have you avoided in the last 5 years? What was the cost? So talk to somebody next to you. If you don't like them, you talk to somebody else. So go ahead.
Fly off. Say a lot of things that are uncalled for, and then afterwards, we'll pretend like it hasn't ever happened, and repentance, forgiveness that should be shown. Things that cause a lot of feeling all the time, they just get ignored. My wife, Sandy, supposedly usually ends up getting all into that with her wife.
You like that? Gotta add a little bit to it.
Yeah, this has been multiple occurrences in the last 3.5 years.
Okay, another 10 seconds here. Another 10 seconds. That's a brilliant idea. So in case it talks terrible, you at least are making something. Yeah. I love it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, so let's bring it back in here. What are some confrontations? What's a difficult conversation or confrontation have you avoided the last few years? You can go ahead and share if you want. You can always say, well, my friend, if you don't want to say you. But what are some examples that you came up with in your group? Yeah.
Staff person that I'm needing to have. Well, I've started the conversation because they're not fulfilling what we brought them in for.
Yeah. They're not fulfilling, not keeping up to the standards. Okay. What's been the cost so far since you've avoided this?
Well, so far they blame me for everything that they're not doing.
Yeah, it's absolutely your fault that they're not working. Yeah, of course. Doesn't that make you feel good, huh? After, yeah. What are some other things? Other examples of ones back here? Yeah, David.
Somebody asked me to do something over Christmas while I was on vacation. Gave the impression it was urgent. I thought I communicated, if it's not urgent, don't tell me until later. Responded, and I found out later, in fact, it had not been urgent. It turned out to be unnecessary. I did not have the conversation. The result is, you can hear the result.
Yes. Yeah, a little bit of bitterness still going on here. Yeah, so hopefully you can, but so we're not really wired a lot for some of these things to have this tough talk, and we often the longer we wait, the more the cost, right? And how I like to say it is, it's great to have this talk while it's a misdemeanor before it gets to be a felony, right? Before you get to do this. So as I was getting ready and preparing for some of this, I realized, I got to do this. And so there was a conversation I had been avoiding with my family for a couple years, and I go, okay, I'll do it. And so I did it, and you know what I discovered was about 80% of what I thought would go badly and wrong, didn't happen. So it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. So sometimes we get that head trash, as we say, kind of in our brain that it's going to be worse than what it is. So there's, we need grace and truth when we have conversations. So negative results happen when we delay the conversation. We're supposed to be like God and in the world. So we need to have, God gives us grace and truth. And there's a reason, I think, in that order. This Dr. Townsend talks about this. People need to know that you care and things before you go and give them all the truth. Have you had that happen where somebody just gives you all the truth first, right? They think they're really helping you, and they just throw the truth at you, and they haven't established trust. If you have, you have probably a crazy aunt or uncle that has done that and things. If you can't think of anybody, might be you. So there you go. All right. So what are we going to do today? Here's some objectives. You feel supported and confident, have crucial conversations with each other, difficult conversations. Understand the steps to take in having these difficult but necessary conversations. We get to practice this. Yes, that'll be fun. And then you can create a campus-wide or church-wide vocabulary when it comes to communication. Because we're going to go through the Townsend 8-step model. And you're like, oh, okay, I see you're doing this here. And it's like building a house. It takes time. So this is my actual house a long time ago. Like my wife and I, when she got pregnant with our first kid, we thought, hey, why not? Let's go out and get a house and tear it up. So this is a brilliant idea. And so we did that. And it all came together, and it turned out nice. And she didn't, we had a lot of difficult conversations during that time, but it was a lot of fun. So there's my family. There's me, my wife, Christina, my daughter, Quinn, Cole, and then Paige. Why do I put that up there? Because we're getting a daughter that's going into teenage years, so we get to have lots of difficult conversations with that. And so who am I? What am I doing here? So I grew up in a town of about 1,200 people, Humboldt, Kansas. You probably haven't heard of it. It was a while back, to my wife's amazement, in the New York Times, one of the places to visit. It's good for the environment. They did some stuff like that. Anyways, I wouldn't book your trip there right away, but it's okay. I worked for a long time as a DCE at Our Savior Lutheran Church in Arcadia. I work now at the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. I've had a lot of jobs at Concordia. I got to have a lot of difficult conversations as the dean of students for a long time. Got my doctorate, and I also I get to do executive coaching and consulting, and so I work with a lot of students and clients and things. And believe it or not, this is a problem across not just church work, all kinds of things. Even the big businesses and things, it's not as organized as you would think. People don't treat each other as well as you would think. And then I got my doctorate in org leadership at Pepperdine, so I've had the honor having many difficult conversations in my vocations God's blessed me with, and in my family too. So it's just fun, all this stuff. Okay, so the single biggest problem in communications is the illusion that it has taken place, right? So think about that. So what are examples? So we talked about which ones have you maybe avoided, but think of examples of difficult conversations personally and professionally that you have had, that you have done. So turn to your partner again. We're just going to do it real quick. Talk about some examples of ones that you actually have had, whether it's personally or professionally. Ready, go.
Difficult conversations.
Did you mind getting a picture? Yeah, whenever you want. And I can give you my cell number or whatever if you want to. Okay. Yeah, no hurries and stuff. So thanks for being here. What's burning you out? What's happening?
Teachers.
Oh boy.
Preschool teachers.
They're not playing nice? No. No, not at all. We hope you don't just leave today, just say, I'm out. I'm done. Oh. Yes. All right. Let's talk about this. What are some examples maybe of conversations you've had both personally and professionally? Look at this. See, this is a subject everybody's excited about. Oh, I'm going to tell you what I did. So, what are some examples that you have that you'd like to share with the group? We'll have more time for discussion. I'm glad you're making friends here. What are some examples here that people came up with in your group? I'll just start. Yeah.
Unfortunately, having to fire a volunteer.
Oh, yeah. Fire a volunteer. Okay. Others? Other ones here. Yeah.
Bring up a very hurtful situation within that had randomly come up within the congregation to my pastor, and not completely knowing where he would stand on it, but letting him know that hey, this was not okay, and thankfully he was on my side with it. So.
Yeah, but there's probably a lot of emotions and stress as you're getting ready for that conversation. Yeah, back there.
As a layperson at the time, having to look a senior pastor whom I loved in the eye in the midst of conflict and telling him I thought it would be best if he left.
I can tell that's still hard for you to talk about now. Yeah. So as we talk about these difficult conversations, it's not like once they're done, we just check it off and that's done. In fact, typically, and we'll talk about this, we have not learned how to properly, kind of process that. Our family of origin might not have taught us that we can actually feel that or express that. You just stamp it down, or you cannot. We act like it never happened. So we'll talk about all that in just a little bit. That's a great segue here as we think about some examples here. Maybe ending a relationship, talking to a coworker who behaves offensively or makes suggestive comments, asking a friend to repay a loan. How many have done that? Giving the boss feedback about her behavior, approaching a boss who's breaking their own safety or quality policies, critiquing a colleague's work, asking a roommate to move out, asking a roommate to pay rent. I had that once. So giving an unfavorable performance review, asking in-laws to quit interfering. Yeah. Talking to a coworker about a personal hygiene problem. Yeah. Telling our kids, you're at the point you got to wear deodorant, and then she's like, it's the demon stick. I was like, I don't know if we're going to call it that, but so you don't stink anymore. So, all right, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Martin Luther King talks about that. So, as we think about why is it important to stay focused on what you want, why is it important to ask what we want for ourselves, others, and relationship? When we stop, take a breath, and ask ourselves what we really want, how does it affect our immediate physical and emotional response? So I wanted to talk about this, and then we're going to get into the model. And I think the model that we're going to go is going to give you a great structure when you got to have these really hard conversations. And we'll talk about why that's the case. So go ahead, pick one of these questions. We're going to do this for a few minutes here. Go ahead and discuss.
Even in the middle of one, I mean, it's important. So you identify it. It's
Good to see you, sir. I know you don't have any difficult conversations because your staff is perfect. Your wife,
Families, wife, yeah.
no issues. Yeah. Yep.
Daily occurrence.
How old are your kids?
Owen, my oldest, is a freshman at Concordia.
Oh, you have a college one, huh?
Yeah.
Gosh. Wow. Wow.
And then I have a 7-year-old.
Okay. I got a 6th grade girl, and it's beginning.
Yeah.
I ruined her life the other day. So I wouldn't take her to the mall or something. She wanted to go shop with her friends. I was like, who says we won't do it? I said, let's go right now. Boom. She's like, what are you talking about? I go, come on, why go home, do homework? I'll go ask the crazy neighbor. She can go hang out with you at the mall. Like, don't call me out, kid. So. How you doing? Now, what are you doing now?
I am family life in the street in Bethany, Austin.
Bethany, Austin.
My practical student.
Hi, good to meet you. Yeah. You still play volleyball with him? You still?
No, not as much as I used to.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
She was an animal. Yeah, she'll leave the imprint of it on your head. Yeah. Okay. Let's bring it back together. Was there any question that stuck out to you that you said, that was important here? What do you think? Anything that stuck out? Yeah.
So the last one about taking a breath, I was talking about the difficult conversations that come my way that I didn't expect. Like there's difficult conversations I know I'm heading into, and I can pray before and get ready for and mentally prepare for.
Yeah.
But then there's those conversations that crop up, and that the physical, emotional response.
Yes.
I gave the example, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but my husband is a very passionate person. He gets very forceful and gets excited, and I'm like, you're too much for me.
Yeah.
And so like I'm immediately in.
Yeah.
It would be a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, time out, I gotta take a breath. And I like her point. She said, sometimes that's more than a breath. Maybe it's an hour. Maybe it's
Yeah.
longer time.
Yeah, because how you process things and want to express it is very different than him. Yeah, absolutely. It's putting up that boundary. Yeah.
Okay, I was just saying, sometimes when you stop and take a breath, and that might take till the next day.
Mm-hmm.
You might react differently, and you might say it's not worth getting into an argument about.
There you go. Yeah, it's like you type out that email. Don't hit send, right? Don't hit send sometimes. Yeah, you got a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, the second bullet point reminds me of find the win-win. Like Covey's,
yeah.
7 Habits.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want? What is it that the other or others want? How can we find a win-win?
Yeah, it's not a zero, something like somebody has to lose and things. Yeah. Anybody ever worked with somebody like that? There had to be a winner and a loser on that all the time? Yeah. So somebody else had their hand up? Yeah.
I like that second question, talking about how it's a matter of boundaries for the relationship. When we ask for what we want for either ourselves or to the other person, or for like the boundaries of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think oftentimes when you think of boundaries between people, it's to stop.
Mm-hmm.
But relationships also have boundaries that like contain.
Mm-hmm.
And like where we want that relationship to sit in our lives.
Yes.
And so it's respect in there too. And so when you're asking for yourself, or you're asking the other person what they want, it's respect for that relationship and figuring out what those boundaries are.
Yes. Yeah. And sometimes people want to push your buttons or push the boundaries and things. Yeah. Sometimes they're really good at it too, right? I mean, they know exactly. Okay. So speak when you're angry, and you'll make the best speech you'll ever regret. So always remember that. So confrontation here. As we think about that, people don't often have that skill. We didn't come from cultures maybe where you love someone and tell the truth. Think about how you've had a difficult conversation that you've been avoiding here. And so here is my example. Has anybody ever had prune whip in their life? Yeah. So that was a family secret recipe when I was growing up, and we were given that every year by my grandma, and we had to tell her how much we loved prune whip. And even though we did not like prune whip, we were given it, and we had to just say it was wonderful, right? And so it was like you couldn't tell, and it was like a highly guarded secret, and it went with her to heaven, and so that's okay. We haven't had it since, but I remember my mom, she was greatly offended once. She was trying to be nice and asked my grandma for the recipe. Oh, okay. No, you've married into the family. You're not really blood, and so I can't share it with you. Yeah. It was a great conversation. So she said, really nice. So our family of origin, as we say, may not have taught us the skills to be able to have these conversations. We avoid it, or we just smile and we do the Christian nice. Oh, okay, and we just kind of keep going. So what we look at here in Townsend is a growth model, and it's after in Luke where they talk about the tree and growing, and it talks about the soil, grace, truth, and time. Oftentimes, what you find is people get really mad and they're yelling about stuff, and it's in the fruit, right? It's the how they're acting, their performance, how they're treating people, or all their behaviors and things. And we have to spend time in the soil, working with them and things. And the character capacities, the trunk here, attachment, separation, integration, adulthood. We're not going to go into all of that today, but it's really critical and that's one thing we teach in the Townsend Institute, is that work that needs to be done. Really, that repair work that has to be done, because a lot of folks come in and they haven't learned this correctly, and God has really made them a wonderful person, but they've kind of stamped that down, and they haven't developed that. So, confrontation, the definition: to face the truth within a relational context. So again, they don't have that skill. You're training from family of origin. Maybe even you're training from the family of God. Maybe if you were within the church, grew up with the church, or worked within a church. Luckily, all of you work within a ministry where you handle conflict in the perfect way, right? Oh, no. So there might be some dysfunctional things that you've learned there that you're not supposed to do. And then how to, if you are, it should be who, not how, but if you can't think about how you were trained as a kid, think back to who got to be mad at the dinner table when you were 8 years old. Right? Was it, what's that? Nobody. Okay, so in your family, nobody was able to be mad. Only, there you go. Dad got to be mad, right? Maybe mom. Maybe mom got to be the one that got to be mad. Yeah. Sister. Yeah. My older sister. Love her. But attacked of a jackhammer. So that's how she did things. And so you learn these things that that doesn't maybe serve you well when you get out into your ministry. You're like, oh, I don't feel like I can express myself because I was the one that had to be quiet. I was the golden child that had to kind of keep the family together the whole time. I couldn't cause any problem. I couldn't take up that space that was reserved for someone else. Or when really, really bad things happen, we didn't get to talk about it, right? We didn't get to do that. So, and how much that impacts you. So confrontation is in relationship, not out of relationship. It builds that when you can do it correctly. So leadership value confrontation. So what avoided, again, metastasize. Things don't get better when we avoid and delay. We talked about that. A misdemeanor works into a felony. 95% of the time, something little becomes something big. Empowerment. Well, all leaderships trickle down. Modeling goes down to everyone here. If they see the leader doing it, then it becomes normalized within the institution. And cultural. So high-performing cultures need high accountability and confrontation and high transparencies. So as we talked about this, you need to confront. There's 3 things here. You typically do it. Performance, problems, getting the job done, as you talked earlier. Relationship issues, problems that divide people, isolate, alienate, gossip, or attitude. Negative attitude, blaming, excuses, or fear. So relationship and attitudes are harder to maybe put into a metric, like a Likert scale. But when you solve these things, really good things happen for the organization. So, okay, now where we come up with this is from their book, from Dr. Cloud and Townsend, so it's based off that model. But the first one is the 4 stance. So you should have your card here. The 4 stance is, I want you to win. The grace comes, again, for the truth. Say something nice. Tell the truth. Say the nice thing. Some people call it the sandwich thing. I don't know. You don't want to come across fake. So don't. That's why 4U stance. You don't have to tell them like they're like the, you don't want to sugarcoat it too much. You're like, now you're being fake on me, But let them know that you are glad you're part of the team if you really think that. But reassure them that you love them. Be rooted and grounded in love. In Ephesians, you start off with "I'm for you," because they're going to have a persecutory judge that takes over when they think something's bad. So if you don't modify the judge, it'll come out somewhere else. Because if you all of a sudden, if Bonnie calls a meeting with somebody at like 3 o'clock on a Friday, and wants to have a chat with them, they know that she's not giving them a pony, right? That they come in there, oh, you did say, here's a pony. It's probably you're going to have a tough, difficult conversation. So they've already came in with guns blazing, right? Have you seen that? You just want to have a conversation, and somebody walks in there, and they're at like a level 10, and you're like, no, this is really kind of like a 5. But they came in, and they really escalated it. And so that's the 4U stance. I want to win. Grace comes before truth. I'm for you. The judge drowns everything out. So again, got to work on neutralizing the judge. I love this verse from Ephesians 4. Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another. Be angry and do not sin. Not let the sun go down in your anger and give no opportunity to the devil. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as good for building up, as fits the occasion, that may give grace to those who hear. So as we think about that, very important. So that's the first part, is the 4U stance. And you spend a little bit of time. You don't have to spend a tremendous amount of time, but when we do this with folks, let them know that you're for them and reiterate that and really start to kind of put that judge down there. State the problem. What is it? Performance, relationships, or attitude. This is the homework part. This is where you need to be specific. Document. Come in with some 2 to 3 specific examples. It can't just be like, well, Leah, sometimes you're a little annoying. Like not that Leah's annoying ever, but you might be like, I notice you come in late a lot, or I come in, the last 3 weeks you've come in, 20 minutes late, and your report wasn't done on time, so that meant they couldn't get the other part done on the, so really be specific on what's going on so that you can have that conversation. So you got to state the problem. And then own your part. So here you go. 99% of the time, the leader is part of it. So clarity is number one in leadership. Priority is important. You can't say 30 things are all important. People don't know how to do it. So sometimes you have to say, even if you go, hey, we're having this problem. You're not getting your stuff on time, or you're really putting down Bill in the meetings. It's really harsh and things like that. And your part might be like, hey, you know what? I should have said something a lot earlier. I kind of let this go. That's my fault. I should have addressed this a couple weeks ago when I first saw this. But now it's a big deal, and I see you continue to do it. And we're going to talk about how to maybe not do that anymore. So let them know that you are part of it too. You're on that team because you don't want the child-parent dynamic to come into play. And then you want to solve the problem. So again, how can you do that? Yeah. So sometimes you'll deal with people and they'll immediately kind of yield. They'll kind of go into the child mode and you're like put up there. You kind of want to even the playing field that we're going to work together and stuff. And it's kind of an odd thing when you see that sometimes where somebody that is very competent just kind of regresses and things. And so being able to level that down. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, again, why do you look at the speck of a sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own? How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when all the time there's a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So, again, owning your part, really critical in that. And then here is a part that's really important. You are going to work with folks, and you know this, that they are going to try and derail you. So hear their side and deal with the distractions. Give them their day in court. They may want to say a little bit. So they might have information you need that you don't have. 7-minute coach, is a diversion, so you can kind of coach them for a little bit. But this is good. Only listen for about 3 minutes. So here's why I say this, because some of the people are really good. Like if I ask somebody and if I ask Harlan if I'm having a problem with him, he's a talker, right? He's a principal administrator. They like to get up and share their knowledge and stuff. He might be able to go on for like 45 minutes, and I'm like, oh gosh, what did I just do? So here's some magic words that when they start doing this, let me get back to. Like he could be going on about the theology of arriving to work on time, and if that's really, biblical, and we should all just get there when we can. No, hey Harlan, that's really great, and I'm really glad you brought that up. But let me get back to that and be able to have that and turn it back in there. I actually saw John Townsend do that to somebody in an info night. We had an alumni speak, and he was great. But he went way off into left field. We don't know where he was going. And John said, hey, you know what, I'm really so glad you taught about that. That was really a great statement. But let me get back to, we're going to do this. And he redirected, and the guy felt like it was wonderful, and John was able to do that. And so being able to say those words, let me get back to, can be helpful. Now you're thinking, yeah, right, my person will just steamroll. And you have to be careful with that, because what's wrong? They've been doing this for a really long time, right? I mean, decades probably of they know how to get their way. They know how to push your buttons. They know how to push the conversation. So you kind of have to, again, set boundaries. And if they refuse to go back there, then you stop it and you go, okay, what's happening here? And you just start to process the process. What's going on here? I feel like we called this meeting. This is what it's about. And you just refuse to talk about it. Let's talk a little bit more about this. Let's process this. And then, if they're just really in this fight mode, then you might have to say, you know what, we're probably going to have to do this meeting another time when you can really have this conversation, because it feels like right now it's not going to happen. So again, being able to be strong enough to back out when you need to, but let me know, let me get back to is really important. And then you make the request. You go to SMART goals. You ever heard of those? The SMART goals, you can Google those. So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely based. So you give them actual things that they need to do. Do your homework, know what you're going to ask. Because all of a sudden they may be like, yeah, let's do this. And then you're like, you don't know. You don't know really what your ask was. You were just so fired up about telling them the problem that you weren't prepared for that. So do your homework on that. Don't just tell them to try harder, So be specific on those things. So And then maybe, over communicate for 30 days. Again, keep checking in with them, keep seeing what's going on, help change their neurology there. Again, over communicate with that stuff. Give consequences if needed. So wise and foolish, don't. You may not need consequences with the wise. Somebody may be doing something, you're like, hey, you're coming across, when that meeting, you really cut off David. David had something pretty important to say, and you just kept shutting him down. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I was so excited. Yeah, I know. And so they might go and apologize. I said, you know what, David, I'm sorry I did that. I didn't realize that was going on. And it might be enough, They just didn't realize how they were coming across. Other people, you might have to put some of that. So foolish people need the consequences. Matthew 18, bring the people together. And then reiterate the 4 stance. Button up the conversation. No less than 1 to 2 hours, Get rid of the persecutory judge. Say, hey, I'm really glad you took the time to have this conversation. I'm very excited. And then you again help them realize it. Now sometimes they're gonna be mad. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever you do, they're gonna be ticked off. And so you have to know that kind of that's what it is. And then let them know that you're here for them. And what do? Have you ever had that where somebody has you have a tough talk, or you or somebody, and then they never mention it again, right? You just, it's done. We can check that off the box. No, you should follow up, right? Check back with the person. Don't, when it's done, come back to your office in 5 minutes. Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, come on, give them a little time. So maybe in a couple hours, but really no more than 24 hours. Just go back in and say, hey, I know it was really hard. I'm for you. Is there anything else you want to tell me? But, these are some things if you have any questions about it. And so it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out thing, but, again, follow them back up with them and bathe the relationship with love. Okay, so review, 4 stance, state the problem, own your part, hear their side, deal with distractions, make the request, give consequences if needed, reiterate the 4 stance, follow up. I did a lot of talking here. So what I want you to do is, in your groups, talk about the one that seems most difficult for you. Which of the steps you're like, oh, gosh, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, we do. Try to get sleepovers and stuff. He knows better.